Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the start to this excellent conference here. And I want to keep it very broad in the beginning to also give a little bit of perspective to the topic we are touching today. So I titled my talk today as Artificial Intelligence as the Key Driver for Enterprise Efficiency. And I already mentioned that I, on the one hand side, bring in the software background. On the other hand, I bring in the background of financial industry, which I had the chance to follow for several years, and also to see how AI shaped up more and more. Before we start, let me ask you a question. Who believes you're still using a lot of manual processes in your area? Can you lift your hand? So is it only 2 or is it more? Okay. And who believes you're already using a decent amount of artificial intelligence? No one? Okay. Oh, fewer than I expected. We can see both parties are right, because you all will know that for some services, if you think about know your customer, for example, thousands of hands are hired in order to make sure that the KYC duties are fulfilled. On the other hand, we can surely say that without technology, and I will come to the AI aspect later, the industry of insurance and financial services could not be where it is today if there hasn't been decades of investments in technology. That's why I believe it's important to take a look at the definition of AI again. This slide actually comes from the Digital Summit on Artificial Intelligence of the federal government in Germany. And it highlights 3 aspects as a definition. So first one is we have perception. So we have systems which perceive the environment. I give you an example. If you, for example, let a drone run via a plant, and this drone is checking what is happening in this plant and outside this plant, this is perception. When we then take a look at the next phase, it's cognition. So what do we make out of this as an analysis? What do we learn from this? So we could learn that there is a leakage in a plant, for example. And last but not least, we see there is action to be taken, because what we do now, we understand there is a plant, there is a leakage, there might be a big damage. So what do? We hopefully, by a system, make sure that the damage is stopped and doesn't cause any more harm. And if you take a look at these, perception, cognition, action, you will see that there are many areas which can already be considered AI, which we use in day-to-day life. We are not in the situation that we, if you know Quality Land as an example, have a robo-president ruling a country. So this AI is far away from our today's existence, but we have enough examples which are still falling in the AI area. And if I take a look at insurance companies, I see this in particular if it comes to, for example, automated claims management, if it comes to the customer relevant assessments, and I also see this if it comes to screening certain transactions. And this is why I want to look together with you again into the overall market perception for artificial intelligence. So we see here that we expect a market of $90 billion. And why is this market so huge? Well, many of you want to make sure that you have more efficient processes, which will help you to have a higher revenue scale. You also want to make sure in many of these aspects that you have a better understanding of your customer in order to address their needs in a better and more focused way. So productivity increase, my first point, 40% is amazing if you take a look at this. And if you take a look again at the investment growth and the startup growth in this area, you see that there is significant pickup in the last couple of years and still more to expect. So we are sitting here in Berlin, so the question is, how does this relate to Germany? Anyone who would like to guess what is the investment amount the federal government is thinking to provide until this 2025? Any guesses? I think, did I hear 3 billion? You're right. So 3 billion, and these 3 billion is expected to be invested especially in collaborations between new companies and established players. And this is exactly why we are all here today, to work on such kind of collaborations. So I have brought you 3 examples. Actually, there are 3 examples from the fund SAP is running, which I think represent quite well where the trends are and where we expect also future growth in this segment. So my first example is Quantiply. So we all know that there is billions invested in anti-money laundering solutions to stop financial crime. But still, AML systems fail in quite a significant number of cases. Actually, there is a figure that this is already 80%. So it depends, of course, on what you look at it, but it's quite a high number. So, and what Quantiply is doing, Quantiply provides a suite of automated AI applications in order to fight financial crimes. And they are able to reduce the false positives by more than 50%. How does it work? On the one hand side, there are suspicious activities being identified in the transactions through machine learning. There is a real-time screening of the payments to make sure that you really have a good understanding on what is happening right now. And you have a real-time learning and prediction component of the risk exposure. And the beauty about it is that this is even regulatory proof, because with Quantiply you can prove what tool took which decision and how this decision has been taken. And this is clearly a USP if you compare this to other solutions. So one example from anti-money laundering risk intelligence. I also mentioned in the morning that another aspect is the customer. And Otto is a company which comes in when customer experience is to be addressed. Because what Otto is doing, Otto is merging language together with intonation. And we all know that the word itself is not the only thing which counts in order to understand each other. Intonation gives you a much broader sense of the person you are dealing with. It's a richer understanding of the context, and it's natural independent. So Otto solutions can be plugged in on every cloud platform. And here comes the data aspect again. Otto also offers the opportunity that the QA teams are able to check the metrics behind in order to make sure that they can monitor the success of their talks with customers, and that they can also coach their staff against the metrics in order to scale in a better way. And my last example is from a very pressing topic. This is not only the reason why we run the next program for the Foundry in the GRC space, but identity management is a topic which is all over. And the solution which I like about Big ID, for example, is that you can really do identity management by scale. So Big ID is identifying the most sensitive part of data from vast stores of information. So every person's data is checked against the petabytes of data around in non-prem and cloud data areas. And again, it's machine learning and identity intelligence together with smart correlation, which helps to really prove the identity behind. What Big ID can do is also to automate the data flow and map it accordingly. And there is a huge competence in tracking the data access and the border flow. And it's needless to say that under the terms of GDPR, you have to be also GDPR-proof with the data which you collect. And this is exactly what Big ID can do. So these are just 3 examples. There are many more, but I think these are areas which will be relevant in the future and where we will see a lot of traction happening. And that's why I believe it's worthwhile looking at these, and I'm looking forward to see more of these examples also in the course of this day. But to let me conclude, I think we also have significant questions which are still open. So if we take a look at AI and bias, what would happen if, for example, for an insurance product, the machine is always favoring a certain gender, a certain race? Do we have an answer to that, what is right or wrong? No, currently we don't have it, and we don't even have a governance around that. We always say data is key, but what does it mean? Who owns this data? Can we delete it? Especially in the context of GDPR, this is an area which is not really solved so far. Liability. Do we really have this explainable artificial intelligence where we can give an explanation and a proof why a machine took this decision? So I mentioned the case of Quantiply. So this is an area where this proof still needs to be taken in many ways. And this has a close connectivity to safety and security, because as long as we cannot prove this type of robustness, it's difficult to rely on a solution in that sense. And my last statement here is international framework, international competition. So we are here in Germany, and of course when we think about AI, we think about the big players like a Facebook, like a Google, like an Alibaba. And the question is, the concepts in these geographies applied for artificial intelligence, is this a framework we believe has a global standard, or is there a framework where we believe this would be more the German, the European path? And I think this will also something we will discuss going forward. And with this, I leave you for today. I wish you fruitful discussions. I wish you that we will, when we meet again, we have a chance to have probably, I wouldn't say solved, but at least come closer to the point for some of the questions. And I would be thrilled to see even more examples of business model in artificial intelligence made in Germany.